Hi guys, it's me again, and here we go with the first of today's videos as we're on Swaziland. As according to the tradition, the people of present-day Swaziland migrated before the 16th century from what is now Mozambique, and following a series of conflicts with people living in the area of modern Maputo, the Swazi settled northern Zululand in about 750, but were unable to match a growing Zulu strength, and the Swazis gradually moved northward in the 1800s and established themselves in the area in what is now Swaziland, and they consolidated their whole number under several able leaders, what were considered able leaders, and most important was Mswati II, from whom the Swazis derive their name. And under his leadership in the 1840s, the Swazis expanded their territory into the northwest and stabilised the southern frontier with the Zulus. And contact with British came in early in Mswati's reign, when he asked British authorities in South Africa for assistance against the Zulu raids into Swaziland. And it was during Swati's reign that the first white people like me kind of settled within the country. And following his death, the Swazis reached an agreement with the British and South African authorities over a range of issues, including independence, claiming resources by Europeans, and administrative authority and security. And some South Africa's administered Swazi interest from 1894 to 1902, and when it ended in 1902 when the British assumed control. As in 1921, after more than 20 years of rule by the Queen Regent Labatsibeni, Supposer II became Gwenyama, or Lion. Okay. Or the head of nation, as the line suggests. As in the same year, Swaziland established its first legislative body, and an advisory council of elected European representatives mandated to advise the British High Councillor over non-Swazi affairs. In 1944, the High Commissioner conceded that the council had no official status, and recognised Paramount Chief, or King, as a native authority to the territory, to issue legal enforcement orders for the Swazis to follow. And in the early years of the colonial rule, the British had expected that Swazi would eventually be incorporated into South Africa, but after World War II, and South Africa's intensification on racial discrimination included induced the United Kingdom to prepare Swaziland for independence, as political activity intensified in the 1960s and several political parties were formed and jostled for independence and economic development. The largely urban parties had few ties to rural areas, where the majority of the Swazis lived, and traditional Swazi leaders, including King Supposer II and his inner council, formed the Imbokodvo, or National Movement, or INM, and the group capitalised on the close intensification of a Swazi way of life. As responding to pressure for political change, the colonial government scheduled an election in mid-1964 for the first legislative council in which the Swazis could participate, and as in the election, the INM and four other parties, most having more radical platforms, competed in the election. As the INM won all 24 of the elective seats, and having consolidated a political base, the INM incorporated many demands of the more radical parties, especially for that of immediate independence, as in 1966 the British agreed to discuss a new constitution, and a constitutional committee agreed on a constitutional monarchy for Swaziland, with self-government to follow parliamentary elections in 1967 as Swaziland became independent on the 6th of September 1968, as Swaziland's post-independence elections were held in May 1972, and the INM received close to 75% of the vote, as the Gwange National Liberty Congress, or NNLC, sorry for mispronounce that, received slightly more than 20% of the votes and 3 seats in Parliament. And in response to the NNL's showing, King Sobhuza repealed the 1968 Constitution on the 12th of April 1973 and dissolved Parliament, as he assumed all powers of government and prohibited all political activities and trade unions from operating within Swaziland, as he justified his actions having removed alien or divisive political practices incompatible with the Swazi way of life, as in January 1979 a new parliament was convened, chosen partly through indirect elections and partly through direct appointment by the king. As King Sobhuza died in August 1982, and Queen Regent Swaziland assumed the duties as head of state, and in 1984 an internal dispute led to replacement by the Prime Minister and eventual replacement of Sweli by a new Queen Regent, Natombi, as Natombi's only child. Prince Makhosetive was named heir to the Swazi throne, as real power at the time was concentrated on Likoko, a supreme traditional advisory body that claimed to give binding advice to the Queen Regent, and in October 1985 the Queen Regent Tombi demonstrated power by dismissing the leading figures of the Likoko, as Prince Makhosetive returned from school in England to ascend to the throne and help the continuing internal disputes, as he was enthroned as Mswati III on the 25th of April 1986, and shortly after abolished the Likoko. And in November 1987 a new parliament was elected and a new cabinet was appointed. As in 1988 and 89 an underground political party known as People's United Democratic Movement, PUDMO, criticised the king and his government, calling for democratic reforms, and in response to this political threat and growing popular calls for greater accountability within government, the king and prime minister initiated an ongoing national debate on the constitution and political future for the country, as the debate produced a handful of political reforms approved by the king, including direct and indirect voting in the 1993 national elections. All domestic groups and internal observers criticised the government in the late 2002 for interfering with the independence of the judiciary, parliament and freedom of the press. Significant improvements have been made concerning the rule of law within the past few years, as the Swaziland's Court of Appeals resumed hearing cases in late 2002, after a 2-year absence in process of the government's refusal to abide the court's decision into rulings that were considered important at the time, and in addition, the new constitution went into effect in 1906, and a 1973 proclamation which, among the other measures, banned political parties lapsed at the time. And Swaziland is located in the western half of the southern tip of Africa, where it covers a total land mass of about 6,704 square miles. The country has a population of about 1.34 million people. As Swaziland came under control of the Swazi people in the 1700s and lasted till the early parts of the 1900s when Great Britain colonised the area, and during British rule the land was divided into European and non-European regions. And as the country gained independence from Great Britain in 1968, the political history of Swaziland is reflected on the country's original language. Swazi official languages, Swazi and English, as both languages are used by the government, particularly in the legislative body, which carries out all sessions in Swazi and English. As additionally, the public school system teaches classes in both languages, as fluency in English is required to be accepted into universities and other post-secondary learning institutions. As news outlets and primarily reports and present information in Swazi. And in addition to official languages of Swaziland, residents also speak a number of other minority languages, including Afrikaans, Songa, and Zulu. As Afrikaans is spoken by approximately 13,000 people in Swaziland, as this language belongs to the Indo-European language family, and is part of this Dutch subgroup, and is developed from the language of Dutch settlers that came to settle in South Africa, and is considered a Creole language, having borrowed words from several languages, and including German, Malay, Portuguese, and Khoisan. As Songa is spoken by about 19,000 people, and the language belongs to the Niger-Congo language family, and is considered a Bantu language. Bantu is a place in Star Wars, if you know what I mean. I won't spoil anything for you. It's to be understood by speakers of both Swa and Ronga. Songa is spoken by the Songa people and holds official status in Mozambique and South Africa. And Zulu is most widely spoken minority language with about 76,000 individuals speaking the language. And like Songa, it also belongs to the Niger-Congo language family and the Bantu subgroup. It is a language of the Zulu people and is official language of South Africa. And as another number of immigrants have settled in Swaziland from other areas from within Africa, as these individuals have brought with them their native languages, which are now considered immigrant languages within the country. As principal immigrant languages within Swaziland is Sotho, Shemori, and Yanya. And Sotho is a native language to South Africa and Lesotho, as it belongs to the Niger-Congo language family and is part of the Bantu subgroups. And in Swaziland, the language is used by approximately 4,700 people, but throughout Africa it has 5.6 million. Shemori is one of the least commonly used migrant languages within the country, and it only has about 600 speakers, and it's previously mentioned, and like the previously mentioned, is an indigenous language, as it also belongs to the Niger-Congo and language family and Bantu subgroup, and is a dialect of the Maori-Comorian language, and has approximately 97,000 native speakers, primarily concentrated within Madagascar and Mayotte, as Yanya is the most widely spoken migrant language in Swaziland with about 5,700 speakers, and is also known as the Chewa language, and refers to the Chewa people who communicate using this language. And like the like many of them. It's also a Niger-Congo language family, part of a Niger-Congo language family, and a Bantu as part of a Bantu subgroup. So yeah, that is Swaziland for you, and yeah, bye for now.